We would like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered by the treaties of peace and friendship, which Mi'kmaq, Maliseet, and Passamaquoddy peoples first signed with the British Crown in 1726. The treaties did not deal with the surrender of lands and resources, but in fact recognized Mi'kmaq and Maliseet title and established the rules for what was to be an ongoing relationship between nations. Tomorrow, September 30th, is, as you know, the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. What you might not know is October 1st is Treaty Day, and the entirety of the month of October is Mi'kmaq History or Heritage Month. So as we celebrate our membership at the University of King's College this evening and partake of the solemn oath that binds us to this place, I would humbly ask all of us to remember those treaties and the promise they continue to hold for a different future. I will say that as an educational institution, as the many calls to action from the TRC report make clear, we have a special responsibility to further the aims of reconciliation as an overall institution, to be sure, but also among and between us as peers, mentors, and friends. Thank you. Walalin.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So I'm going to start tonight by introducing our small but mighty platform party. And so you just heard from Vice President Sarah Clift, also a professor of contemporary studies here at King's. Sitting next to Sarah is Dr. Peter O'Brien, who's the public orator of the university and a professor of classics and a former vice president of King's. So we have two vice presidents with us tonight. Julie Green, next in the front row, is the registrar. I'm sure all of you met or heard from Julie in the admissions process, and along with Pam Hazel in the president's office and Katie Merwin in the dean's office and people in the kitchen, Chartwell's, Julie's team have done much to organize tonight's event. In the back corner is Dean Katie Merwin, who, if you didn't know before you came to King's, I'm sure you know by now. Next to Katie is Paul Thompson, who's the immediate past president of our Alumni Association, and also a member of the Board of Governors. And the next person I know you all know, it's Nick Harris, the president of the KSU. And then we have Janet Hathaway, our librarian, who in this context is the keeper of the matricula, one volume of which you see on display in front of us. And I'm Bill, and I just want to take a moment before we proceed with the ceremony to welcome you all here tonight, to say thank you for coming, to tell you all you look fantastic and amazing in your robes. This is one of the opportunities we get at King's to dress up in the old-fashioned way. I want to also welcome the people, all of whom I'm sure are connected to you from coast to coast to coast and beyond, who are watching on our live stream tonight. I guess the last thing I want to say in welcoming you is that for many years we had many matriculation ceremonies. We did them in small groups of students in the library. And in keeping with the theme, the main theme of matriculation, which is coming together to be a community. Last year and this year, we've held them in larger gatherings, last year online and this one in Alumni Hall. And the other thing that's kind of neat about doing this in Alumni Hall, this didn't occur to me last night, is that matriculation is about the beginning of your time together as students, but it also, and you'll hear more about this later, it anticipates your graduation in a ceremony called insenia, which is the King's word for convocation and celebration. And so it's very, very appropriate that we do this beginning in Alumni Hall in anticipation of the next big beginning, which is insenia. And that's what insenia means, another beginning. And it's great to have the alumni represented here tonight for all those reasons. So with that, I'm going to call upon Dr. O'Brien, who's going to lead you through the matriculation ceremony. Dr. O'Brien.
Thank you, President Bill. And welcome to the ceremony of matriculation, which marks your formal entry into the college as student members. This ceremony, a form of which has been celebrated for more than 2¼ centuries at King's and for many centuries longer at the great universities of England and Scotland, is named for the matricula, the large register that will record your names. And as has been mentioned, matricula, in fact, the very first one of the college dating back to 1803, and the students who inscribed their names there. In a few moments, you'll be asked to recite an oath in Latin to express your desire to enter the college and your willingness to observe its traditions. We use Latin, the universal language of learning in the West since antiquity, to remind ourselves that the community of scholarship we enter is larger than our own circle of friends, our college, and our country, as well as older, connecting us to and generations past. Those minds and spirits are represented materially in our library, which houses the matricula, and their echoes are heard almost every day in this room. Embody them as well as give them in pronouncing a formula in a language once taken to be emblematic of universality and inclusion, we might reflect too on voices that have been left out, lost, or suppressed in our tradition as we embark on a journey of learning that creates new knowledge in us, even as it makes us aware of what we don't or cannot know. So, in anticipation of the recitation, I think I'll ask everyone to rise, please. You have a complete text of the oath in your programs, but in the screen behind me, I'm going to project the individual words that I will pronounce first and ask you to repeat after me, so it should be easier to follow along. Are we all ready? All right. The oath begins. Ego. In universitate. Collegii regalis. Discipulus sancte policior me. You can't imagine the shivers that are running up my spine as I hear this unified voice in perfect Latin coming at me. Legibus pariturum. Traditionesque meliores, eius culturum. Ita ut. Praeceptis eius. Convivendi. Eruditionesque oboidiam. Nec non ipsius. Academiae dignitatem. Atque salutem. Quantum in me fuerit. Per reliquam vitam. Pro curaturum. Brilliant, brilliant. Thank you so much for doing that with such affection of voice. Scito vos in matriculum collegii hodie radatos esse et ad observandum omnia statuta hac libro comprehensa quantum ad vos spectant teneri. Know that you will be today entered in the register of the college and are bound to observe all of the statutes contained in this book as far as they concern you. Congratulations. I'll now yield the podium to our registrar, Julie Green, to give you some instruction before President Leahy formalizes the matriculation oath that you've taken.
Hi, everyone. I'll invite you to sit down just for a few moments. So it is quite an honor to be here and see you partake in your very first academic ceremony at King's. And as Bill said earlier, I really look forward in less than 4 years to seeing you cross the stage and handing you your degrees. So I'm going to provide you with some information about actually signing the matricula. We will be having signings available in the A&A, the Arts and Administration lobby, from 6:30, concluding, starting at the end of this ceremony, right through till 8:30. So we invite you to continue over there after this event, and you can go sign the matricula either before or after the reception. The reception, of course, is on the second floor of the Arts Administration building. So what happened last night, and it kind of became a little bit of a natural flow, is that some of the students would line up, keeping in mind, of course, social distancing while you're lining up through the Arts and Administration foyer, down the stairs on the way to kind of Prince Hall. And then as you come up right before you sign the matricula, we'd also ask you to use the hand sanitizer that's there to sanitize your hands before signing the matricula. The reception is on the second floor. We really encourage and invite all of you to attend that ceremony. For those of you that are day students or living off campus, we encourage you to return your gowns as soon as you can, and that is possible right at the exit of this room. So thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you as you sign the matricula and at the reception. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Julie. So we're just about to have the last part of the matriculation ceremony. And I'll just say, by way of preface, I hope you read the English version of the Latin you read, because there's some pretty heavy-duty promises in there. And I'm about to accept those promises on behalf of the university, and that will make them binding. And believe me, I'm a law professor. I know what I'm talking about, okay? So if anyone's nervous about those promises, this is your opportunity to perhaps leave the room, okay? So I'm going to ask you to rise again, please. So there's only one quasi-mystical power you get to have by being president of the University of King's College, and you're about to see me exercise it. It's the translation of you from being mere students of the university into being members of the collegiate body that we call, that Dr. O'Brien so eloquently calls the collegii regalis. So, actura tate mea admitio vos discipulos in universitate nostra collegii regalis. Survete leges preceptaque, foete traditionis eius preclaris. And so what I've said is, by my authority, I admit you as students in our university of King's College. Keep its rules and precepts. Cherish her excellent traditions. Congratulations, you're members of the King's College community. So you can be seated again, okay? I'm just going to talk a little bit about the promises that you just made and the effect of having them accepted on behalf of the university. Before I do that, I just wanted to note that I bet anything there's some second-year students here. Are there any second-year students here? They're over here, some back there. I just think it's wonderful that you're here, along with our first-year students, because, of course, you didn't get to participate in this embodied experience last year, as we're able to do this year. That's fantastic. There's one other person I neglected to specifically mention when I was introducing people earlier, and that's our piper, Cameron Barrett. And I was so delighted when you gave Cameron a round of applause. And just so you all know, Cameron is our official King's College piper. Piping is very appropriate because, as Dr. O'Brien will tell you, this ceremony originates in Scotland. And I want you all to know that Cameron is a student. So thank you very much for being here, Cameron. So when we get around to having formal meals, we're going to get around to having formal meals, you'll get to hear Cameron again. So we've reached the point where we've concluded the formal part of the matriculation ceremony. Subject to the opportunity you all now have to engrave your names in the matricula with all the other students, the thousands of other students who have done that since the 18th century. But you are now, as I said a few minutes ago, fully matriculated. You're officially members of the college. And so for the third time, if you heard me speak at Move-In Day and the first FIP lecture, congratulations and welcome. I want to offer just a few reflections about the promises you have just made that the public orator and I have, on behalf of the university, accepted. First, I want to observe how extraordinary it is that you have all started your university careers by promising, in these individualistic times, to serve, or rather to be guided by, something called the precepts of communal life and learning. Now, these undoubtedly strike you as old-fashioned words, but their relevance and meaning has perhaps never been greater as we gather together to become a community in pandemic conditions. As we all know, the pandemic has vividly demonstrated our need for community based on love, care, and concern for others, but also how community depends on us, on people, caring for strangers, and not just for ourselves and those we love. If you were at move-in day, you may remember, but probably not, you may remember me saying that it will be up to you, like every other generation of King's students, before and after, to determine what these precepts will mean in your life, your own life, and in your collective life. You may also recall that I suggested we think of our precepts of communal life, that kind of abstract concept, as the commitments we make to each other every day, including the practices we follow to keep each other safe and healthy, and to keep our community together and thriving as we do our best to live and learn safely with COVID. So, based on how you have lived and learned for, and not solely with each other since move-in day, I can say, on behalf of the university, with confidence, you all know what it means to serve the precepts of communal life and learning. And I, like everyone else associated with the university, look forward to how you will further define and give further life to these precepts as you pursue your education at King's and Dalhousie over the coming weeks and months and years. The larger point, though, is that in committing yourselves to these precepts of communal learning and life in and through community, you have committed yourselves to each other and to the journey of mutual and reciprocal learning that you have embarked upon already. A journey you take with each other and your professors at King's and Dalhousie. In form, in the words of the oath, your promises were to the university. In action, they are to each other, because King's is its people. At the foundations of the institution, the corporation, the buildings, are the relationships that will change your life and stay with you for the rest of your lives, the same duration as the promises you have made. Matriculation signifies this, in this year especially perhaps, by bringing you together to take your oaths as one large collectivity, or rather, two large collectivities. A group of students who have started and will follow educational journeys side by side, enjoying companionship and triumphs, but also carrying each other's burdens where that is necessary. So, the other promise each of you have made is to care for the honor and welfare of the college, and not just for a little while, but, quote, for the rest of my life. Now that also is quite an extraordinary thing, at least if you take it seriously, which we all hope you do. The response I gave to you in response to your promises implies both acceptance of your promise and also a reciprocal promise. In admitting you as students in our University of King's College, the language of matriculation signifies that the university quite literally now belongs to you. It is now as much yours as it is past and future generations, as much yours as it is mine. The language also signifies that in addition to being students for a time, you are now lifetime members of the college. That is the alchemy of matriculation. In the spirit of that alchemy, I hope tonight helps you feel a little more like this is your community. This is your place. These are your people. This is your college. No matter how long your stay as students beyond the year in which you're currently studying, I hope you are already on a path to perpetually thinking of this collegii regalis as yours and each other's. I trust that you will always make your presence known and your voice heard in the college's present and its future, now as students and then as members of our Alumni Association, which, like so many other things about King's, happens to be the oldest in Canada. So I want to also recognize what I am sure you already understand, that caring for the honor and the welfare of the college is not the same thing as always defending or praising or celebrating the college, though I hope you do find much to defend, praise, and celebrate. But caring also requires criticism when criticism is due. To paraphrase Sarah Sharp, our most recent valedictorian, I would say caring for the welfare and honor of the college means understanding and accepting that criticism is an act of love. So this means calling on the university to be better than it has been, where it has failed or disappointed. This really is and must be one of those excellent traditions of kings that I referred to a few moments ago in the language of matriculation. And I think it is very important to see this, as well as harmony and concord, in the beautiful words we have just spoken. This is particularly important as we prepare to observe the first National Day of Truth and Reconciliation, referred to earlier by Dr. Clift, and as we reflect upon and work to improve our relationships with all of the communities who are underrepresented at King's, including the African Nova Scotian and the African Canadian communities. So you have done your part. You have made your promises. And the college now and in the future must earn the commitments you have made to its honor and welfare. And on behalf of the college, I promise you the college's dedication to this task. And I also promise you that this will always be your place. This college will always be your place. And I hope that you will always want to belong and to be proud to belong to King's and the King's community. So let's do all that we can after this evening to make this so, to make these reciprocal promises meaningful for your time as students and hopefully for the rest of your life. To seal the deal, please do take the next step of engraving your signatures in the matricula, so that forevermore, and I think this is really cool, it will be clear to everyone that you were a student of the University of King's College and then continued as a lifetime member of our collegii regalis. So my remarks say, I hope you find this evening fun, but last night one of your peers said, well, it wasn't exactly fun, but it was interesting. But I hope you find some fun tonight, some enjoyment, and maybe even a little magic in the proceedings that we've just enjoyed. On your behalf, I want to thank every one of the many who have had a hand in the creation of this evening. And I look forward to seeing you all at the reception on the second floor of the Arts and Administration Building. Now, just a little item of business about how we're going to get to the Arts and Administration Building. The platform party will depart first, and we'll get once again to hear the skirl of the pipes as the platform party departs. And we ask you, if you want to do it in true academic style, not because we deserve you to stand up because we're leaving the room, but that's the academic tradition, that you stand up as the platform party leaves the room, and then after we've exited, it'll be your time to leave the room. This will be very good practice for what will be expected of you all at Encenia. And I look forward to seeing you at the reception, but as Julie said, also to seeing you at your Encenia a few years down the road. Okay, Katie, are you going to lead us out? Thank you very much, everybody.